Hey guys, it's Gemini, and this video is going to be talking about my overall thoughts about Stormgate so far, where it's headed, where it's at, and basically just what I think about it so far. It's going to be kind of just like a loose video where I'm just free-forming thoughts, not much editing or anything, so sorry if I'm not super clear on too much, but I've got a couple things that I listed out that I kind of wanted to talk about, and just to kind of share what I've been thinking so far. A lot of other people have been sharing their thoughts in some videos, so I just wanted to do the same thing too. So just for context, I have been in the Stormgate closed beta or alpha, whatever you want to call it, since August last year. So I've been in multiple phases and I've played with a lot of the different iterations of the game so far. I have over 100 hours played so far over all of the phases, which is not huge compared to some of the top players or the ones that are really grinding a lot, but you know, it's something. And over the last couple of phases, I was in the top 50 to the top 100, top 200, 300 of the players. And I've also been a GM StarCraft 2 player for pretty much a decade at this point. So this is just the overall thoughts that I have with that experience coming into Stormgate so far. And the first thing that I mostly want to talk about is just the fact that the game does feel good. Like it's a solid foundation. It feels nice. There's so much that is just in the game already that just makes it feel like it has promise, and that, you know, in the future they will be able to really make it a solid game, and I kind of believe that they will. But there are some things in it that I'm not the biggest fan of yet, or just that I think needs some more time for them to develop and whatnot. So the first major thing that I really think is that there is seemingly a lack of scouting in the game. Especially coming from StarCraft 2 is what I am, generally a StarCraft 2 player, is that in StarCraft 2, you have so many options to be able to scout no matter what race you are or what style you're playing or whatnot. So in Stormgate, it feels like overall, yeah, you get the early scout, the dog, to be able to do the cool vision checks and whatnot. With that, you have fiends, which are really fast, that can kind of skip past units, similar to Zerglings, how you would maybe try to scout like that in StarCraft 2. But outside of that, it feels like there's almost no ways to actually get a good scout off. And a lot of the scouting that you're doing is like surface level or at the front of the enemy, where you're kind of checking, like, at the front, are they attacking? Are they making a third base or something like that? It doesn't feel like you can really dive deep into the enemy's base to get some sort of scout off, similar to in StarCraft, where you have oracles to go in and scout and harass at the same time as well. Revelation to do that. Reapers can dive deep to go get information. Overlords can dive deep to go get information. Scan can scan wherever you want and get information. Hallucination, observers, yada yada, overseers, etc. You know what I mean? So there's so many different things that can actually dive deep and actually get information that you can then piece together to be like, okay, he's doing this strategy, or okay, this drop is going to be coming at this time, something like that. Stormgate doesn't really seem to have that right now, and that's something that's a little obnoxious to play with, personally. It feels like you're really playing blind a lot of the times, especially when you're an Infernal player, where you're trying to kind of get a scout and read off what the opponent is doing. Are they going for a lot of bio really early? Are they going to try to do for some early mech switch? Or are they going for an early Hornet play or something? It feels like you can't really get that information. You're just always reacting on the fly when it comes out, and you're hoping that it kind of passes by a fiend or something that you have running around the map. And even if you try to go for that deep scout as well, fiends themselves are so weak, they just die so quickly. It doesn't, like, you can't even really get that far in. Same thing with Infernals, where the dog as well, it's also very weak, so it's hard to actually get deep into a base to actually scout what's going on. The scanner sweep also with the Vanguard as well, where you send out the little scanner dog, which is obviously placeholder text, which is hilarious, or placeholder model, which is really funny. But that also, it's just a straight line, and it can easily get intercepted and killed before it even gets to its target destination. So in general, I feel like you do play very blind in Stormgate, and that's something that I think should be improved in general, and something that we should hopefully get more opportunities to do when they increase, or when they continue to develop and whatnot. I'm not exactly sure the best ways to really, implement that. I am not a game designer, so I don't know the best ways to maybe fix some of these problems, but I'm just mentioning some of these problems and some of these things that I've personally noticed from playing. Lack of scouting, I think, is one that's really noticeable whenever I'm playing. One way that I think maybe they could even fix that as well with the scanner sweep dog thing is that maybe like since you just kind of point and shoot it towards someplace and it goes in that direct straight line towards that area, perhaps maybe you can maybe make a path that it goes, like you can predetermine like, okay, it's gonna go on this path, and you like shift click a certain way that it goes, and then it will reach its final destination and stand there like it does right now. So that way you at least have some choice to potentially dodge where their defensive setup might be, or where they might have units set up to deny your scout. Because right now it feels like you literally just shoot it out and just pray that he doesn't have turrets or units in the way, and then it just dies before you even get any scouting information, and then you just lost all your energy for that. So maybe that's something that can be improved to make it feel a little bit better. But yeah, that's my only thing that I was kind of thinking of. But anyway, so yeah, lack of scouting I think is a big one. Next one I think is the lack of explosivity. So this is something that might feel a little, this might be kind of a hot take, something that maybe some StarCraft 2 players are actually not a fan of. But I personally think that's in StarCraft 2, some of the moments where you actually do get big hits and kill a lot of units really quickly is kind of good for a viewer perspective. So I think in general, what is happening with Stormgate is it feels as though there's a lot of these really huge armies that are clashing, and it takes a really long time to kill anything, which I understand is the point. They're trying to make it so that way the fights last longer, similar to StarCraft 1, similar to Warcraft 3, where things are not dying so quickly and it's less volatile. I get that. And I think that is overall a good option, or a good direction, I should say, to take the game in. I do like that. I do like that you get that feeling of really getting nice, long, drawn-out fights, and it doesn't feel like you're just dying instantly all the time. But I think there needs to be some balance between that and the really explosive plays. Because when you have those big explosive plays, it's really something to get hyped about. It's like super sick. It's a super awesome moment. You think of a disruptor shot going out and blowing up an entire army. It's like, oh my god, that was a sick play. That was such a clutch moment if they were like behind or something like that.
Defend the attack.
Oh my god! Oh! He killed everything! I didn't think...
Or, you get like a burrow fungal. You unburrow the infestor behind their army, you get a nice fungal off, and it opens up an engagement. Or, you get some really cool blink micro where you blink on top of a unit, snipe it, get out of there, or just, you blink out to safety and something like that. Like these really just kind of quick boom plays that are really sick, really hype, really cool to look at, really cool to watch, and it makes you excited. It feels like in Stormgate, it's very drawn out, it's very long. I don't feel like I see too many of those really, quick punching plays that happen that is really kind of hype and cool to look at. This is mostly I'm not talking about playing this. This is mostly as a viewer perspective as well. And also for a commentating perspective, because I've done a lot of StarCraft 2 commentary. I've done a little bit of Stormgate commentary with Tasteless and whatnot on his channel. I've even done some Valorant commentating. So this is something that I want to do a comparison with of first-person shooters like Valorant and Counter-Strike compared to StarCraft 2 and RTSs in Stormgate.
How much does m0NESY want to dedicate his life to this bomb site? m0NESY on catwalk finds the timing. 8 seconds. If he can drop the bomb, it'd be everything. But it travels into the site. 1-on-2 for m0NESY now.
It's sacrificial. Gives his position away. He wants m0NESY's end gone. But this man, the Shepherd staff takes down the GOAT, and he takes Simple out of the round to give it to G2.
The thing that's so interesting and fun to watch as a viewer and also to commentate as a commentator in games like Valorant or Counter-Strike is that you see so many of these moments in those games where you have these huge pop-off moments where someone gets this crazy clutch 1v3, or you get some crazy retake of a site or something like that. Someone gets this ridiculous no-scope op shot or something, and it's like this massive pop-off moment where everyone in the audience goes crazy, the commentators go crazy, and everything is like, it's such a sick moment. And those are super fun to watch. It's like comparing that to StarCraft 2 or Brood War or any RTS. Obviously, they're totally different games, so you can't replicate that exactly, but the feeling of those moments, I think, is really important for an esport and for a game in general to make it super exciting and super fun to watch. Stormgate is very good in having those kind of long drawn out fights that does make it feel like there's this really cool, just enveloping action that's happening on the map, and that, you know, it's not like it's just one fight and suddenly it's over. It does add some tension in that way, but there also is a lack of tension in the way that it doesn't feel like there are some of those moments where you can just boom, punish an army out of nowhere, and then like that was a huge mistake by the opponent and you capitalized on that. And so I think that is something that I think there needs to be some balance found with that to really make it feel like there's a bit more explosivity in the game to feel a little bit more hype and cool to watch personally. The thing that I can think of is maybe like shadow flyers, like, you know, locking on and exploding onto some hornets or something, or the flame imps getting connections. But that's kind of, I can't really think of too many other examples too much off the top of my head that feels like you really get this really big power play that's just like boom, and it's in their face, and it feels really cool and hyped to get that. On top of that, I think sort of connected to that is also the idea that there's not a very easy way to punish certain plays. I think some units, while the whole point again is to make it so they have a lot of health and they don't die super quickly, I think some of that is overtuned a little bit. The one that I'm specifically thinking of mostly here is the Doombringer, where I have a personal experience in this in one game that I played where someone had their Doombringer landed in my main base in Infernal vs. Infernal. I had like 8 to 10 Gaunts in an army coming up to kill the drop, and I got a solid 3 volleys off onto this Doombringer before the opponent even reacted or tried to lift up the Doombringer to run it away, and it got to like half health. And then they just loaded up all their units and ran away. I think there needs to be some level or balance of punish where if someone makes an obvious mistake of ignoring their drop and neglecting it, you should be able to just jump on it and kill it. Especially for something as punishing and snowbally as a Doombringer Gaunt drop. I think you need to have something that can just, you know, if you have a good amount of anti-air units and you get on top of it before they notice and you get multiple volleys off, that should be dead and done. So I think some of those moments also maybe needs to get reworked around a little bit and find the balance of having the long extended fights and having the punish plays where you can just kind of jump and be like, okay, this person made a mistake, I'm going to capitalize on it, and I'm going to get an instant advantage because I was the one paying attention and they weren't, something like that. And again, that might not be some people might not like that from StarCraft 2, but that's just my perspective on it. So that's that. The next thing I think is that there's just a couple issues with some of the pathing and the precise clicking still a little bit, where some of the units are going to get a little bit jumbled up here and there. They don't feel like they move around the way that they should. And then clicking on very specific small units, especially when they're moving, still feels a little inaccurate when you compare it to Brood War, StarCraft 2 and whatnot. Obviously it's been improving over time for, all the different iterations and whatnot. So I think that's something they're actively still trying to improve, but I'm just noting that I still kind of feel that a little bit sometimes. It just doesn't feel exactly as smooth as StarCraft 2 yet. It's very close. It's like a solid 98%, I feel like, but I think they just need that extra 2% to really make it, super crisp and super clean so far. So that's just something else that I kind of wanted to mention quickly. And then a couple good things overall, though, that I was mostly just saying a couple of things that I think should be improved. I think so far what they have done over the couple last iterations, though, is really improve the macro mechanics, and I really think they've really improved the readability of the game. The macro mechanics for a while were completely non-existent, and it felt really bare bones and kind of boring almost to macro. But I think recently what they added with this new iteration with the kind of boosted chrono boost ability for Infernals, and then those supply solar panel things for the habitats for Vanguard and whatnot, I think those are really good additions, and I really like that a lot. Giving you just some reason to go back into your base and look around at your base and do something with your base. Because for a while, it really felt like you just never really had to go back to look at things except for build a building every now and then. And it didn't really feel that satisfying to create something and build a base, and you have to manage it and move workers and all that kind of stuff. I really do enjoy that from StarCraft, and so not having that in Stormgate for a little bit felt like there was some empty void there, which wasn't really getting filled, some itch that wasn't getting scratched. So I think that was a really good improvement. It still obviously needs a little bit of tweaking because I think the Infernal Chrono thing is a little bit strong and whatnot, but I think they've been slowly tuning that to be a little, more well-balanced. So overall, I think it's a good direction that they're going with that. Same thing with readability. The last phase before this and whatnot, the readability of the game was really rough. Everyone was saying it. I think that was the biggest complaint overall, is that it was just really hard to tell what was going on in a game. And I think they improved that super well this phase. I think like literally the first game I played on this new iteration compared to last time, it was just, I instantly noticed. I was like, oh my God, I just had a moment in the middle of the game where I audibly said, oh my God, I can see things. Like I can tell the difference between my units and their units, like immediately. It was I think very noticeable difference. They still obviously have some things that they have to work on a little bit that I think should be improved overall, which specifically is some of the Infernal units are still a little bit too difficult to tell, especially in the mirror. Specifically Magmadons and Hellborns are a little too, the colors don't feel like they pop too much yet. They have a very distinct color on them themselves, which is easy to look at instead of the team colors. Weavers as well. So all of the high tier units I think need to still have a little bit more alteration to them to really make them pop out a little bit more. I often find myself in Infernal mirrors accidentally clicking on enemy Magmadons and Hellborns and stuff, thinking that they were mine. Especially if it's a very scrappy fight and it's kind of hard to know exactly who's winning. I noticed multiple times where I try to micro an enemy Magmadon or something, thinking that one was mine. So I think those need to still be improved just a little bit. And then the last thing that I want to quickly touch on is actually not really related to the game so much, but actually the MMR system, the point MMR system right now is, I think, and I understand they're still totally figuring out exactly how their point MMR system is going to work, but I personally am not a big fan of it right now. I don't like the fact that you have points and MMR, and then the points are the thing that determine where you are on the ladder, because it doesn't feel too, I'll just say it straight, it doesn't feel right. It feels weird where you get points and then you don't ever lose points, and then your MMR, your points will always go up if your MMR is high enough to pull the points up. But then once you reach the maximum MMR essentially of where you've been, the points will stop. And then you get 1 point, 2 points per win, if that. And I think that's a good idea for casual players who are a little bit not, they might have ladder anxiety. They're kind of confused about exactly like if they want to play a lot of games, and then if they don't want to, they don't want to lose all their points or whatever. I get that. And that's kind of a good way to help them to improve and keep playing and want to just stay in the game. But for the players that actually do play already a lot, it's extremely unsatisfying. I think it's not fun to constantly grind and ladder when you barely see yourself progressing, even though you're playing a lot of games and you're winning a lot of the games too. Like my win percentage right now is like 50 something. I can look at it really quickly. I think I have it up here. It's like for my Infernos, it's 63%. I'm at, that's kind of a decently high win percentage compared to what ladder is supposed to be, like the goal of the 50-50, right? So, but I barely get any points for a win, and it feels really unsatisfying. And a couple other players that I talk to in general just kind of feel the same way too, where it doesn't feel like you get anywhere on the ladder after you play a decent amount of games. And so I think that's a little frustrating to play as someone is more into actually trying to ladder and wanting to see the fluctuation and whatnot. I think it's just also a little bit boring as well for the leaderboard, because a lot of people, when they look at the top 200 in GM or something like that, especially in the early days of StarCraft, it was so cool to see that everyone kind of moving around and the places bumping around and stuff like that. And that's it, like that's accredited to points being able to be lost as well. And now it feels like once there's the solid players at the top of the ladder, it feels like you can't move around in the top of the ladder, because someone will just get so high up in points and then they never lose the points. So then it takes all the other players so much more effort to get their MMR high enough to somehow pull the points up to match that or go higher. But you're getting 1 or 2 points a game, if that, some players are getting 0 points in a game at the highest level. And it just makes it not interesting at all to follow the ladder or just to see who's the top players and whatnot. And so I think in general, I'm not the biggest fan of how they're implementing the point MMR system right now. If it was me, I would just get rid of the points entirely because I'm a tryhard. But I understand there needs to be something there for the casuals. So I think there just needs to be something reworked there to make it a little bit more interesting for the players that actually want to keep playing a lot naturally and don't need that little buffer of, oh, you're not losing points, so just keep playing. I think there needs to be something to make us feel like a win is a win and you get something and you're progressing somewhere on the ladder. Like getting a big win and then getting plus 30 on StarCraft 2 is like so sick. As much as the losing to a 500 MMR less player and losing 40 points is awful, having that potential be there makes the wins feel so much better because you see yourself moving around. And I personally would rather that, to be honest, than what is in right now in Stormgate. So I would rather them just kind of stick to the MMR only, but I'm sure there's some way that they can make it, you know, balanced to hopefully still make it rewarding for the players that grind anyways, and then still a little forgiving for the players that just want to play and not worry too much about what their points are and whatnot. So in general, that's kind of what my thoughts are so far about Stormgate, just over the last couple of iterations. This phase especially has been really good, a big improvement over the last one, and I'm really excited to see where they keep going with it because every single phase has gotten better and better and better. So overall, I think it's really fun. It's really great. There's so many things that can be improved on, and there's a good foundation. But like I was mentioning here, these are some of the big ideas that I had in general that I feel should be improved with the game to make it really excellent going forward. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below if you guys agree or disagree with anything I was saying. I'm just kind of curious in general what everyone's thoughts are about the game so far in this current iteration. So I hope you guys enjoyed. I'll be making some more of these kinds of videos in the future, as well as my normal ladder games and whatnot to upload on the channel. Hopefully you guys have been enjoying them. Make sure to like and subscribe if you want to see more of them, and I will see you guys in the next video.